Hey guys, it's Skybird, and today we're going to be taking a look at, well, everything. All of the Bara Magna project so far. Now, it's not complete, I don't work that fast, but I'm really happy with progress on it as it stands. We have 6 Glatorian designed already out of the 9. Surely some things will change, but we also have 1 vehicle, 1 large dinosaur, and the dragon designed and pretty much ready to go. Let me know your thoughts on all of these models, and of course, if you like this content, hey, make sure you're subscribed. It really helps out the channel. And of course, the other thing I wanted to mention as well, if you didn't see the last video, our very first ever LEGO Ideas project has officially been approved. So I did post that video. You should go check it out after this one, and that way you can show it some support, show it some love. But without further ado, let's get right on into it. So we're going to hop over into Studio, and we're actually going to check out the 6 Glatorian that are pretty well done so far. Very happy with where they stand currently. And yeah, so these are the 6 main elements, but the 3 elements you see off to the side where I have these placeholders are iron, sand, and air, as I'm treating air and jungle as 2 different elements. Since Tassara is called the Twin Village, I figured it'd be pretty cool to kind of displace this village with both jungle and air characters. Without that, though, we are also looking at... Now, none of these characters really have names, but this first one here was actually inspired by Balam Nom Nom over on Instagram. Love that name. Been following them for quite a while as well. And fantastically talented builder. And oddly enough, they hit almost exactly the aesthetic I was going for. Now, obviously, their scaling was different because they were doing their work, obviously, outside of this project, but it was pretty near perfect for what I wanted for my fire character. Now, they chose their character to be Kyrie, which I think is a really cool idea, although in lore that's an Agori character, but I really like the idea of maybe one of these Agori becoming Glatorian. So I don't know what character this is, but I like the idea of Kyrie, and of course we can always, pair that with that sort of story, right? The character has a bit of a story now. Along with that, rather than the brown cape that they showed off, I chose dark brown. That was the color I already had set aside for the fire character. Their main inspiration, though, was basically the color blocking, where I was putting yellows and dark reds. And then, of course, the gold chain around the neck. I thought that was a neat little call over to their item as well. But as you can see here, we have one of our custom swords. This was supplied by Galva for this, and I love the design of it. It really goes for that Sky Pirate kind of aesthetic as well. It's a very broad sword, but it has this intricate, almost cathedral-like aesthetic to it that I really like. On top of that, we also have the bird build that sits on his shoulder, giving him obviously more pieces, adding to his parts count. But I'm very happy with the design of that. And is it a little cliche to give the fire character a creature, since Jaller Maori did? Sure, but I still like it. So moving on to the next one, we have the green, the jungle character here, which would be paired with a dark blue shoulder pauldron, and I thought that was a really cool idea. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, by the way. I don't know if a pauldron is cloth or if it is a piece of armor, but you get the point, right? It's filling that sort of role, that position here, and I'm very happy with how it has come out. It is using my custom Stronius ankle guard that I designed in Blender a few weeks ago, as well as a foot build that I actually designed for a sand character a while ago. This was fully buildable, except of course you'd have to change the colors out, but I really like how it looks either way, and I figured it made a little more sense for this, jungle character to be this creature-esque kind of build, right? Very similar to Tarduck having claws, so I think it's a really neat one. The swords here, I believe, are some Galva weapons as well, and then we've got these blue flame pieces introduced in Hero Factory and elsewhere. Along with that, this one is an asymmetric build with the arms here, with one of these arms having this third Oggens armor piece. That's the person who created it. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but really happy with it. It is a piece that I pretty much want to work in wherever I possibly can, because it has a very smooth aesthetic that kind of pairs well with the cloth pieces I'm using, but it doesn't really alienate Bionicle as it stands either. That said, I do want to modify this piece slightly. There are some issues I have with certain things it's not compatible with that are very little issues. They're easy to just mess around with, right? So really happy with the design of that one. Moving on to the next, we get the water pirate, the water character. Right now I've got orange on the hips and knees. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I also really like dark red as an option here, or dark tan. Obviously, these Vorok shells are available in all three of those colors already, so we're not even introducing new colors there, but I really like the aesthetic of it either way. I thought the dark red was probably the coolest, going for that sort of pirate vibe, but I understand that, you know, it does strike that water color scheme a little bit differently. Not that that's a bad thing. Obviously, you can see we have brown in one of the jungle characters' color schemes, so I think it works. Next up, we've got the rock or stone character, I guess, rather. And yeah, pretty happy with how this one's coming out. It's actually a fairly straightforward build compared to some of the others. Also using my Stronius armor here, as well as the Hordika foot here in brown, though I think I may change that over to tan. Really just depends on what I think I like better. Yeah, actually, I kind of like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I can be a little weird with my color blocking sometimes, but sometimes things just speak to me. Moving on to the next one, we have Kairuis. This one is actually a build that I've created in real life, not with these feet, of course, but back when I had the prototype of this helmet here. It's actually milky white in reality, but I'd like for it to be just standard white here if I was going to reuse it. But I do want to mention that all of the helmets I'm using here are stand-ins. These would likely have their own unique helmets, but if any of them do reuse a helmet, I think this is a pretty strong contender here. It works quite nicely for that pirate aesthetic. Again, a very not futuristic, fantasy pirate, right? Pirate robot. And I think it fits. It works really well. I like it for that. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. In terms of the shoulders, you can see we have the galley armor in white, which I don't know why that was never recolored in white. It's literally like a snowflake already, right? And then the snowflake shields from the Metis set, also recolored in white instead of silver. Other than that, there are a handful of recolors you can see throughout this entire project, but we've got a lot to cover. So next we have the Earth pirate, and I feel like I changed more on this, so I may not have saved this character since the last time I opened him up, because I don't remember using these on this character build specifically, not for the pirate version anyway. That said, I still don't mind it. I like it quite a lot. We have more of the Galva weapons here, as well as the Terex weapons appearing in black and trans pink giving you those crystalline structures for those Earth Cavern characters, right? Paired with a dark red cape. And I also want to mention that some of these capes are, again, stand-ins because we don't have them in studio for Bionicle sets, but these would be like the Vizon capes. I was about to say Vizoke. Vizon capes, right? Whereas this would be more of like a waistcoat, like a skirt sort of thing. Maybe a waistcoat's not the right word either. This one, same thing. We have the shoulder pauldron, and then we have a full-size cape that's kind of got the twin tails on this one here. That's, again, just stand-ins for this stuff for now. So as you can see, the rest of these are stand-ins because I haven't finished what design I want on them yet, but I'm very happy with where they're at right now in terms of color scheme and color blocking. Keith Orange and Gunmetal is obviously a color scheme we've gotten in the past with the Huki Mari set, or Huki Anika set, but I don't hate it, so you know, I may end up having it reappear here as well. We will see. Of course, I could always do silver or some other color paired with that as well. And it is snowing outside. So messing with the next one, we've got the tan for sand. I figure a higher emphasis on tan for this character, whereas the other is getting more of the brown. It makes a little more sense to differentiate these characters more fully. And then air, pairing that with standard green rather than dark green, which I think is always a nice option as well. So again, because these are stand-ins, the armor, everything's about them is going to change, but the color blocking should be relatively close to this, if not completely different. So now we're going to move on to the Ornithopter, which you guys have seen in a previous video, though I don't know if you've seen it with the new tail on there, the triple Terex tail. And I really like this too because it kind of flows with these tube pieces on the side, so it works out really well in my opinion. The wings would be the Monkey Kid blade pieces, but they're not in studio currently, so that's a little unfortunate, but they're really nice pieces. Of course, I would have to move them around because these wings actually have to be able to overlap, and currently they cannot. But that's not terribly difficult. 165 parts. Haas is actually not supposed to be the driver of this. This is a water vehicle, so it should actually be a water character, but he works well enough for stand-in figure here. Moving on to Calterix, the big old dinosaur. We have this build right here. Very happy with where this is at currently. Of course, that head is, again, a stand-in, just made it quickly in Blender. And it's got a handful of connection points, including 5 connection points on the base here for these teeth, although I'm only using a handful right now, as well as connections on the back for the hooks, whatever you want to use, spike pieces. There would also be connections at the top as well, like unicorn horns, though they're not being used here. And some connections on the front end also not being used currently, but very happy with where this is at right now. 715 pieces, so he is a big guy, but that could also be lessened by using cloth pieces on the sails here, and of course the sails are very likely going to be reused on the giant airship. That would be the flagship of the air vehicles specifically. Lastly, we have the Sky Tyrant, and again, no cloth pieces in studio, so I can't make the cloth wings, but if you guys saw the video he was recently featured in, he's not finished in real life, but I'm very happy with where he's at here. And yes, currently that is using Pearl Dark Gray or Gunmetal for the armor. I've also tried this in silver, or not silver, Pearl Gold as well, which I don't hate, although the character shouldn't be wearing Pearl Gold. But I don't know how I feel about it in studio specifically. It's too bright in studio. So I like the gunmetal better. The character, as I hinted at in a previous video, the controversial video, is either... Okay, let me get into the controversy a little bit. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of reusing Makuta. That's not the exact plan, but that is kind of how I made it sound, and fair enough. Actually, someone kind of hit the nail on the head. So my idea, and this probably changes lore at least a little bit, but is after the Reformation, after Makuta is defeated, after getting bonked over the noggin with the big old planet, you know, the idea is that this character essentially would essentially come across a piece of the Krakan somewhere on Bara Magna, or well, I guess it'd be Sirius Magna at this point, and in so doing would be sort of corrupted slowly by the essence of Makuta that is still left inside. As we have seen in the past, you know, Makuta has been defeated to come back time and time again. Maybe it's a trope that I think is overplayed, but at the same time, he is also like the quintessential villain, if that makes sense, for Bionicle, and so I feel like it's right for him to be here, even if, yes, there are other big bads introduced, and even some that we had not seen. So I like the idea of this basically being a character that starts off as sort of an Agori character, gains this Krakan, fuses it to his helmet, or whatever happens to fuse it to his helmet, and then slowly starts to be corrupted by it, transform it, but also at the same time, it maybe tries to struggle against that, to fight against that, to keep his own identity, if that makes sense. So there's sort of an internal struggle being battled here. That doesn't even make sense, but you get what I'm saying, right? So it's definitely an interesting concept. I like the idea personally. I think this version of him looks pretty good as well. Obviously, it's a small character. Makuta has been represented in Bionicle by small characters in the past, but never in set form, right? And so to see a character of roughly this size, I think it works. Now, the helmet here is just a kit bash of 3 helmets from some random Glatorian pack that someone had made. So it's a Ranu helmet part plus a Malum helmet part plus a Strack helmet part, but I really like what's going on with it. So yeah, there are things I would touch up for on it for sure, but it's cool. I like it a lot, even though it's got this kind of like angular low poly aesthetic to it. It really works. So the main thing I would probably do is work the Krakan shape a little bit into the front of this, which is fairly easy. You've already got a little bit of that chin protruding out of the front, so just turning that into more of like a nose type thing with maybe the Rakshi cover on it would be easy enough to do. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. It's obviously a different video from what I usually do, but yeah, I just want to go ahead and show you this one while I've got laundry going, while it's snowing outside, and while I'm taking care of other things at home. So if you guys did enjoy this video, just make sure you are subscribed. Let me know your thoughts on this or any of these characters. If you have suggestions for maybe color schemes for some of these elements or what roles they can play, I'd love to have a conversation with you guys. So make sure you comment your thoughts below, or if you want to share your comments with the community, then check out the Discord and Instagram linked in the description. You can also support the channel on Patreon, linked in the description below as well, and just make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.